Hello and good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a relaxed weekend with your family and friends. Welcome to the 84th session of Talk to the Expert series organized by the Spectrum Autism team. We are a parent support group committed to create awareness about the role of the community in supporting families of children with special needs. Hi, my name is Shivali, and I shall be your host this evening. The theme for us this year is empowering parents. But before we start the session today, with one such empowered parent who's also the founder of Chinsura Sense Society, a physicist, and a parent advocate, on behalf of the entire team, I would like to thank each one of you for supporting this initiative so wholeheartedly. We feel stronger with you by our side. And now let's meet the guest tonight, Ms. Bratati Choudhury. Hi, ma'am. Good evening. Ma'am, we're not able to hear you. Your voice is not reaching us. No, can't hear at all. Though we do see Aratrik, could you just unplug and plug again, as in the uh, the headphones? If you could unplug and plug again.
Now?
Yeah, so much better. Hi, good evening and welcome again.
But I cannot hear you now.
No, you can't hear me. Can we remove the head?
Okay. It's
All
fine.
good?
Okay.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, ma'am. So.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Hi, Aratrik. Good evening and welcome, ma'am.
Good evening, and I am really thankful to the Spectrum Autism team for hosting such an awareness program for the past couple of months. And June is the Pride month, so I am really grateful to you to be here and spreading awareness for us, the parents. It's a kind of, it's a mantra for our life.
I would say it is the other way around, ma'am. The community needs to be more aware of what is our role to play when it comes to raising children with special needs. We have always heard and said multiple times that it takes a village to raise a child. And when it is special need children, uh, somehow we find the village missing. So this platform is actually to create that awareness within the community that each one of us has a role to play. So we are in fact thankful to you for accepting this invite and coming on this humble platform. So, ma'am, we have already met Dr. Day, who's father to Aratrik, and we have seen Aratrik's book. We have seen and read this book, Talking Fingers, which has created so many ripples. And Aratrik is one of the authors of this book, and you are the mother of Aratrik now. So, we would want to know from you, because you're here with us today, how has been your journey of raising Aratrik as a parent?
Actually, our journey is not very much different from other parents who have children with disabilities. It was all about anger, bargain, and depression and acceptance. But the denial was not there. We didn't deny even for a moment. We accepted it, and we knew that something difficult is going to be happen in our life. So we accepted it wholeheartedly. So Aratrik was born in 2001. And he was a perfectly normal, healthy baby and touched his milestones in time. And only in the speech part, there was some delay. So he started babbling when he was 6 months old, but when he was 1 and 2 months old, he had only 4, 5 meaningful words. So I reported to the doctor, but he advised us to ignore it. Otherwise, he was looking completely okay. And he had very strong affinity to the written words, to the books, to the newspapers, even the graffitis on the walls, the posters. Uh, he was immediately drawn to that from very childhood. And he had peer interaction also. He made eye contact. And even he showed some of his body parts. We taught him playfully, actually. So show me your ear, show me your eyes. So he also did all those things. But at the age when he touched 18 months, he started losing his voice and started regressing in his own world. And, some kind of motor stereotype is started developing. So it was alarming. Though the elderly in our family, they told me that it happened to children that they talk late. So you need not to worry, but that regression actually was very unnerving. And fortunately, I read about autism in a magazine. So I again reported to our pediatrician, and he was a real help to us over throughout all the journey. He was actually this doctor, the pediatrician of Aratrik. He was of real help. So he referred us to a local organization and advised us for going to a hearing test. So hearing test came out normal, and the psychologist in the organization, she told us that it might be autism, but it could be very very mild, because still then Aratrik had eye contact. He tried to follow our lip movements. So when you speak, he tried to follow or imitate the speech, and he had social smile also. So we started our primary work, and they also referred us to Nimhans. And when he was 2 years old, so the formal diagnosis came. So, but as the years went by, his body movement started become clumsy, more clumsy, and sleeping issues and constant running around, hopping, flapping, all of those issues started increasing day by day. So we sent him to a kindergarten school and used to attend the organization's clinic twice or thrice a week. So as he had speech regression, so the focus was to develop his receptive language using flashcards, etc. So, and another thing I want to mention here, that I used to sing a lot because Aratrik responded to music very well. And, to calm him down, to engage him in activities. So music was, for me, is the last option. So we played, we talked, we danced, even communicate through music. And he had a list of favorite songs. So mostly those were Rabindra Songit, because I am trained in it. And I wrote some, rhymes and for brushing, for bathing, for eating, etc. And he poked my lips to sing songs. So it was his communication. His gestural communication was really strong, and still it is very strong. So when he was 5 years old, he got admitted to a special school, because inclusive education, it was an alien word in those days in our part. I am from Chinsura, Hooghly, West Bengal. And he got admitted to the special school, but for inclusion, his father actually took him to every places. He got admitted to a swimming pool when he was 4 years old, because he loved to play with water. And we took him to functions, to meetings. Actually, Mola is very social. So he is actually involved in a lot of social activities. So he took him everywhere. So in this way, we started our journey, and Aratrik wrote, and in the playground, they played ball, and Aratrik wrote in Talking Fingers about his fond memory of playing ball with his father. So it is some snippets of our journey, how we started.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have read that part of where he shared that his most precious memory and moments to share from childhood. Yeah. So, ma'am, you mentioned about Chinsura Sense Society. So, how did you establish this, and what is the purpose behind it? Please tell us about that also.
Chinsura Sense Society is an organization founded by us, Mola and I, and works for education and advocacy for persons with intellectual disabilities and autism. And it's a kind of parent support group. We work, it is a very close knit organization, and we don't have, uh, uh, actually, we don't, didn't actually aspire to be a very big institution or something like that, but we work very closely with children and their families. But there is a backdrop why we started this. Aratrik used to attend a special school, and he picked up reading Bengali, learning his number. Even by the age of 9, he could add two single digit numbers he could add, but knew many more things. But I was not satisfied because he was anxious and seemed unhappy. Actually, his main challenge was his activities of daily living, where he has to move or maneuver his body. And clearly, the intervention it was not working properly. He used to shut his ears, used to move around. Sitting at a straight at a place, it was a problem for him. He flapped his hands, and there are a lot of ADL activities he couldn't do very easily. So all these were termed as behaviors. And the measure we took to modify those behaviors was not effective and made him more anxious. So the behavior centric approach actually clearly failed to identify his challenges behind all these things. So again, the same doctor I mentioned earlier, he referred us to an occupational therapist, and the term, it was not very much common in our place. In fact, OT is a very unknown word to me. OT means operation theater. So anyway, we visited him, and he actually pointed out the main challenges of Aratrik, that it is a problem of motor coordination. It is in his praxis. So, and also the sensory difficulties. He shut his ears. So it is actually because of his extreme sound sensitivity. It is not a behavior. And the maneuvering his body. It is a motor coordination issue. So, and I first learned about the terms, the proprioception, interoception, vestibular sense, and learned about how these are very important for the development of a child. So at that point, my lens actually was completely changed. So then I started researching about dyspraxia, about sensory integration, and methods other than behavior-centric approaches. So I procured some books and manuals, and we went to Kolkata also for better intervention. But once in a week attendance was not enough. We needed more consistent and regular approach. So at this juncture, we founded Sense, so that he could get consistent 5 days a week school, peer interaction, social experience through various cultural programs and awareness programs.
Right. So, ma'am, you mentioned about dyspepsia and certain other sensory issues. If you could just elaborate in one word or two what it actually means, it will help our parents.
Yeah.
Listening.
Proprioception, and proprioception is a sense. We have we are aware of the five senses. But other than these, the proprioception is a sense which helps us to feel our body in the three-dimensional space. And vestibular sense, actually, it helps us to keep the body balanced. So, and interoception is something which helps us to know what is going on in our body. So, where the pain is, I'm feeling the pain, or I'm having the need for going to toilet. So all these things. So the persons with autism, the children with autism face difficulty in the toilet training. So or they have low pain threshold. They
Right.
cannot say where he is
Sense
pain.
pain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
all these are related to actually all these senses. It is not just behavior.
Yeah.
Hmm. So and this knowledge actually changed my outlook.
Mm.
Completely my outlook was changed.
Yeah, because what you mentioned here that not every behavior, seemingly behavioral issue is a behavioral issue. They could be more deeper, and that is where
Yeah,
we need to understand it just
yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, ma'am, you mentioned about the program, and we have also heard it several times from parents that they took a program from the therapist and home-based program. So,
Mhm.
tell us about these. What are these programs, and how should one ask for a program, and who should you ask for the program?
Mhm.
So, a little more details so our parents can actually think about if they are considering to look for a home-based program.
And the programs actually are educational plans. Those are customized according to a child's need, keeping in mind the child's preferences and the challenges. And a functional analysis can be done by a competent therapist or educator, or maybe by a group of educators and therapists. And parents should be involved in this, the assessment or this kind of thing. So, and this can be followed at the home settings. But parents should be aware of how to follow this program in home setting. So some kind of parent training program is very much required.
Yes, ma'am. So we have read about Aratrik's poetry, his love for writing and expressing himself through poetry, and we've read some of his work also through the book Talking Fingers. I keep referring to this. So in case if you don't have a copy, everybody who is watching, I would request please go grab your copy. This book is available in Hindi and English both. So, ma'am, how did you start working on his communication? You mentioned around 18 months old when he was regressing and he was losing his communication skills. So from there till now, when he's expressing himself very avidly, I would say, the way that he does. So how did that happen? Please share that journey with us.
Yeah, Aratrik had, strong gestural communication. You know, uh, Understanding and identifying the intent of communication is the first goal for a parent. So communication can be anything by the gaze of an eye, or raising a hand, or clapping, or as he Aratrik poked my lips to sing songs. So all those were communication. And the occupational therapist we visited, he told me to make him point to things for communication. He was not talking, so he told us to make him point to everything that for communication, what he wants. And this he still does this. And we used a picture exchange communication system also. But I was not very consistent with picture exchange communication. Rather, Aratrik was very comfortable in pointing to things. And I had a voca device also called GoTalk. So, and another thing I did when he was 12 years old, so by then Aratrik picked up Bangla very well. He could read it. And we are slowly introducing him to English. And I knew about RPM. I used to search internet extensively for information. So I knew about RPM, and in their website I found a method which attracts me very much. It is like that. So we use paper cheats. So basically I asked a close-ended question and gave him two options written on the two paper sheets, and put him in front of him, and he had to point it to the right option. So it worked very fine. And it could be the simple yes or no, not always the answers. It could be yes or no. Do you want to eat? Yes, no. Do you want to go out? Yes, no. So he had to choose it. So he responded very well. And it was and another thing that I by then I learned about structured teaching method and applied it in his the educational programs and the home based programs. So all these changes brought many significant changes in his so called behaviors. He became more happy and less anxious. So through though our main focus actually was on his activities of daily living because it was the main challenge for him. um, and I thought that as he could not speak, so we should make him write things. So we started, the pre-writing skills, all those things. We started very early, but the writing, the tripod grip required to hold a pen, it was very difficult for him. Till now, the grip is very loose and the handwriting is very illegible. So back then, if we support his hand like this, so he could write. But I knew somehow that it would not work in long run. Supported handwriting, nobody will going to believe. So at that point, the occupational therapist suggested me to teach him typing. But at that time, I was a little bit skeptic that I was apprehensive whether he could find appropriate letter from all those 26 letters. Keyboard is a very complex, very complex system. A lot of 26 letters, a lot of symbols, numbers, etc. So finding the appropriate letter, it is not very easy. So, and he knew Bangla much better then. So I made one Bangla letterboard, big size letterboard. But all the Indian languages and vernacular languages, letterboard is very problematic. So when we say ball, jol, call, so there is no aka, a, e, u, this kind of sign. So he could point to things. But when we insert the baba, so ba, a, so it was different. And this method is nobody actually followed it in our locality, so nobody can help me, nobody could help me in this in my difficulties or in my dilemma. So I dropped it using Bangla letterboard, or I actually continued with the paper cheat communication and gestural communication. And here I want to mention the contribution of the physical therapist associated with sense. So Aratrik had, he had a problem with the visual clutter. So that is why the pointing to the finding the right letters was a problem. So the physical therapist, she was trained in neurodevelopmental theory or NDT, and she worked extensively on Aratrik's visual skills, all those visual discrimination skills, visual memory skills, and Aratrik didn't look to things. So when he not only with the persons, eye contact is difficult for him to make eye contact with human. Not only that, he didn't like to stare at the things which he is doing. So I always have to give him prompt, look at it, takao, taki koro, look at it. So uh, and so that problem was tackled by that kind of intervention given by the physical therapist. And also she worked on his the building the core muscle strength with therapy bands, with weights and kicking balls. And he kicked balls with 4 liters of water bottle. We put it here, and she told Aratrik to kick the ball, and the bottles should be dismantled. So this kind of intervention were going on, and at that time his motor skill actually improved and he started beading. So he used to make very fine bead jewelry. uh, and but the communication was stuck. in gesture and pointing to paper chits.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2018, I read one book. So Vito Rajoshi Mukhopadhyay's book, How Can I Talk If My Lips Don't Move? So it was so moving, and it actually opened my eyes to the possibility of open communication. And I was so moved by this book, so I requested Tito so that I could translate it. So I collected some of his writings and translated it in Bangla and published a book also.
Wonderful.
So, and
What is the book called, ma'am, and where can we find it? The translated version?
a translated book its name is Amar Autismer Ghore Shagoto. It means welcome to my home. Welcome to my home. The name is autism. So it is actually the meaning of the Bengali title.
And where can we find it? Is it available somewhere for purchase?
No. Actually, you have to contact to the publisher and he will send it.
Okay. So we would request you to share the details with us later. So maybe those who want to read the book in Bangla, they can find the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Thank you.
So on 2019, when then I thought that I must try with the typing thing. So on 2019 end, I made a plan, and the consistent effort is very much required actually. So we made a plan, and initially it was making his hand familiar with the keyboard, not just typing words, so that he can type. So if we ask him type A, he can point to A. Type B, he can point to B. So that in the Quetry keyboard, the A and B are not they are not placed side by side. So the first goal was to make his hand familiar with the keyboard, then copying his known things and answering close-ended questions, which we already did with the paper chits. So and his home tutor Stuti Chatterjee, she was instrumental in this typing practice. She is very intelligent person, and she loves Aratrik a lot, and the bonding between the two is it is worth mentioning. So and from 2021 June onward, when we started asking him questions or open questions, he started answering in single word. And we were really astonished by the level of information he possessed. So when we asked how did he get to know all these things, he communicated that he had learned things by hearing and from YouTube videos. So he, the mobile is his constant companion. So he always watches videos, songs, etc. And another person I want to name here, it is our friend, a long-term friend, Shubir Kishore Bhattacharya. He is actually, we call him our mentor. He is a retired teacher in English language and is a drama aficionado. And he actually helped us a lot because, we are not from literature background, but Aratrik was very much fond of literature, of poems, of the philosophical pieces. So it was not our cup of tea to teach him all these things, and to even to put the punctuation marks in appropriate position. So all these plans, Shubida actually helped us a lot. Still very much active in all his educational plans. And from 2021 November end, he started answering in full sentences.
So are we going to hear something that Aratrik has written? Can we hear some poetry that you can recite for us, please?
Yeah, it's a Hindi poem. So I'm reading it, but forgive me, my Hindi is formidable. It's a poem about he tells himself as poet of hope and joy and hope. So it is a poem about hope. कभी आपने सुना भी आशा बने हैं रुकावट टालने के लिए, सभी मान जाते हैं जिंदगी मिल जाते नहीं आसान, आशा की बुलंद पर औरों भी अपने लिए बेहतर सुहानी सफर बनाती है, लेकिन सभी सफर ना तो आसान होता ना ही सुहाना, फिर भी शानदार अपने तरीकों से बनाना पड़ता है.
वेरी डीप एंड वेरी प्रोफाउंड. हर सफर आसान नहीं होता, लेकिन उसको शानदार अपने तरीकों से बनाना होता है. एंड दैट इज सो ब्यूटिफुली सेड. So definitely he has a lot of depth in his thoughts, and very, I think, very sorted thoughts he has, and very philosophical also, like you mentioned. Yeah. So
and he gives us advice in our family matters also.
Okay, wonderful. So you have a family matter expert as well at home. Awesome. So, ma'am, as I mentioned in the beginning, that the theme for us this year is about empowering parents, and one aspect of empowering parents is about parent advocacy. So, like to know your views about is parent advocacy like creating sympathy from the community, or it means something deeper than that?
I don't like the word sympathy, actually. Sympathy actually doesn't work for a long run. So parent advocacy is much deeper than this. Parent advocacy is important in the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities, and so is self-advocacy. But self-advocacy in case of IDD children is in a very nascent stage in our country. But in India, parents played a very important role, and they are playing a very important role to bring about changes in policy and legislature. So it was from 1999 National Trust Act to 2016 RPWD Act, and including autism in the list of disabilities. So all these are in the POSCO Act, and amendment of POSCO for the inclusion of the persons with disability in POSCO. So everywhere parents played a very important role. So all these things didn't come overnight. It is not overnight thing. So parent advocacy played a very crucial role in it. And our Talking Finger authors busted the myth that non-speaking persons do not have language, that they cannot think. It is not true. So this myth they shattered. So now it is time to advocate for their rights to express their views. There are a lot of skepticism about this kind of alternative mode of communication. So it is time for the parents to fight for their rights, to advocate for their rights. They have established their roles as authors. So now it is time to advocate for changes in our education system also. So in USA, I regularly see the news, the RPM group, or in the various typers group, I saw that the news of persons using alternative mode of communication attend schools, colleges, earn their degrees. Even with the aid, they are carrying their letterboard, and with an aid, they attended their classes. It is accepted there. So we also need it here. This will create more opportunity to get employment, to have income, to have the most important part is that to have control over their own life, so that their decision be valued by others. So parents need to be active. So parents अपने बच्चों के लिए, उनका हक के लिए पेरेंट को आवाज उठाना है.
राइट. सो अपने बच्चों के हक के लिए आवाज उठाना बहुत जरूरी भी है. उसका एक बहुत बड़ा कारण ये भी है कि बहुत बार it is about people not being aware of what is needed, by the child who has a special need. Like your the occupational therapist was treating Aratrik for behavioral therapies, while what he needed was sensory, maybe some support there, right? So it is important that parents talk about accommodations. That is my next question. That how important it is to let the community, now maybe school, around the playgrounds, at home with the therapist, or with anybody in general who's interacting with the child, how important it is to talk about accommodations.
Yeah. So it's very important part, very important question for the the for inclusion, adaptation, and accommodation is absolutely necessary. And for persons with disabilities, accommodation, adaptation, and modification in the physical structure, in the physical space, as well as in the curriculum, they are actually extremely important. And Stephen Hawking, I can give example of Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking के लिए कितना कुछ करना पड़ा so that his talents can be used by the society. Otherwise, how his life, his potential will would be unused. His profound intelligence could not be used if you could not arrange for those accommodation and adaptation. So accommodation helps to make the environment actually barrier free, and so a person can function well. So in case of Aratrik, I'm giving examples for him how we actually give arrange for some accommodation. When he told that reading from a book is tiring for him, or looking at a book is overwhelming for him, so हमें audio books को arrange करना पड़ा, and we read books to him, and we taught him typing, on a flat keyboard. But we saw in the typers group that they place the keyboard on a stand, or sometimes in a completely vertical position in front of their eyes like this. So we also arranged that. And when we asked Aratrik wrote that the tilted keyboard actually helps him. So even we researched a lot about the proper height of the chair and the table so that he can function well. तो एंड जो बच्चे लिख नहीं सकते, फाइन मोटर डिफिकल्टीज होता है उनको उनको कीबोर्ड प्रोवाइड करना चाहिए, बिकॉज सिंगल फिंगर टाइपिंग इट इज much easier than writing with a pen. And if someone has difficulty in reading or have problem in language processing, so picture or icon based communication board, it can be helpful for them, for their communication. So all these are examples of accommodation and adaptation. And other for physical disabilities, we all know that we arrange ramps, etc. Yeah, in our physical spaces.
Yeah. So while accommodation or sharing the accommodations needed by the child is important for the family and the child, it also allows a lot of innovative practices and ideas and design thinking when it comes to creating the kind of infrastructure which is needed to support the children and young adults. So I think parents, please don't shy away raising your child's needs and asking for accommodations. And also for the young adults who are there out and working in the fields where they're working in corporates or anywhere in your close circle, please share what accommodations you would need. It is your right and you must ask for it. Ma'am, you have shared so many insights with us, but still I am not yet, I'm looking for more because there is so much that we can learn from you. Any messages that you like to give for the community, both parents and the community, about inclusion or anything that you have in mind? Please share with us.
I just, the main message I want to leave for the community, or again and again I am saying this: presume intelligence. And it's my message. And if in Talking Fingers, Aratrik wrote that, so he was asked a question whether a person first language or the identity first language, which he prefers. So he wrote that autistic or person with autism, the terminology is not important. Important is respect. And we must respect them as a fellow human being. We always talk about acceptance. But when we talk about acceptance, there is a power hierarchy, no? So we accept you. So I am at the upper level from you. I accept. So neurotypicals, they accept the atypical people. Important is whether we accept or not, persons with disability or persons with autism exist in the society. And we should acknowledge that. And presuming intelligence actually begets respect. And respect is absolutely important to coexist in a society.
It's so rightly said. Dignity of each individual. It is the right of an individual to be treated respectfully, and we must do that. I would like to read what Aratrik has written when he was from the book I'm reading. When he was asked the question, "What message would you like to give to the community?" and he says, "My message to other parents is to hope for their children's abilities and think positive about their future. Negative thoughts resonate with evil forces which bring unhappiness. Therapists must be compassionate and should not be sarcastic towards us." And I think these are so meaningful words that he has said, that we need to be respecting the individual. Do not say anything sarcastically. Be compassionate to the children and people who need that support from us. Right. And that's actually left me thinking. And I hope all the viewers who are watching us tonight, you would resonate a lot of the thoughts that Bratati ma'am has shared with us today, and Aratrik has shared through his book. You would actually be able to relate to it, and there would be takeaways from each one of us. So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us tonight and taking out your time and sharing so many insights with us. We wish from all of us from the Spectrum Autism, wish Aratrik and the entire family very happy ever after. And we would request all the viewers who are watching us that June is the Pride month, and also is the month for fathers. We have one campaign going to support our fathers, who are truly the people who support the family, and they don't say a word about their contribution to the family. So it is time to show your love and compassion towards your father. So please do participate and share your views about your father. And thank you so much for supporting this initiative once again. Thank you, ma'am, and wish you a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.